Awesome.
What about you guys?
A whole lot of nothing, to be honest. There's not sports to watch or anything, so it's been rough.
I bet. Yeah, it's tough. I think there might be golf on today, or at least it was earlier this week. But there's slowly getting back into the swing of things, which has been nice. But yeah, it's been tough. No NBA, no NHL, no baseball supposed to be playing. And
Yeah.
it's been weird. It's been a weird few months.
Are you a fan of like the NHL and NBA and stuff?
I mean, I like going to the games. Like I love
Yeah.
going to hockey games. Those are always exciting and fun.
Yeah.
But to watch it on TV, I don't really watch a lot of sports on TV, to be honest with you.
Okay.
When the playoffs roll around for the NBA, I'll watch that. It's actually when they actually start playing.
Yeah, exactly.
So, so yeah, I mean, I watch it occasionally, but it's not. I like college football, I like college basketball. But yeah, once the playoffs roll around for most sports, I'll tune in and pay attention a little bit more.
Nice. Yeah. Yeah. I actually I like college sports so much. I love college football, college basketball.
Yeah. So you're a big Crosby fan?
Yeah, I guess you could say that. Yeah. I'm a big hockey guy, but I mean, I love all the sports, but when it comes to collecting memorabilia, that's the sport that I collect.
For sure. That's awesome.
All right. Tyler, you ready?
Yeah.
All right. 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to another episode of Around the 412. I'm Tyler, and with me as always is Smitty, and we are joined by a very special guest, Steelers defensive tackle Chris Wormley. Chris, how's it going?
Going well, man. How are you guys doing?
Really good.
We're real deep into this quarantine thing now. We're doing good. We're adjusted to it. We were talking about it before we started recording, but you know, my actual job is an essential business, so like life's really been kind of the same for me.
Yeah, I cannot say the same.
Yeah, I mean, right now we're supposed to be, in OTAs, the last week and a half of OTAs and mini camp after that for 3 days, and we didn't have workouts, for those first 5 weeks, and so we're just kind of on our own this off season, which has been weird. It's been a big adjustment, but like I was telling you guys earlier, I just became a dad in late December, so it's been nice to kind of have my focus just be on my daughter.
Right. Well, congratulations on that. But also, as an athlete and also a parent, that's like the one thing as an athlete that's got to be tough, because you talk about like missing all these things that happen while you are away. But, that's, you take the pros with the cons. And one of the pros of this quarantine thing has been, you being able to enjoy all this time.
Absolutely. It's definitely the silver lining to this quarantine. Obviously, a lot of bad things have been happening these last 4 or 5 months. And to be able to find something that is, that's positive and optimistic in this world right now is pretty cool.
Right. Okay, so let's get down into it. We know that you grew up a Steeler fan, actually. So how did that come about?
So kind of happened pretty randomly. So my grandpa took me like winter coat shopping in kindergarten, and I picked out a Steelers like starter jacket for my winter coat for the year, and I didn't even know. I just thought the logo on the back was cool, and it was the big Steeler logo on the back. And a few years later, I realized it was the Steelers, and it was the NFL and football, and that was when I started playing football. So I was like, hey, let's hop on this team and be a fan of them. And the teams that I grew up around that were closer were the Browns, the Bengals, and the Lions. And growing up, they weren't the best of teams. And
right.
And even the Steelers the first couple of years, I think when they had I think Tommy Maddox was a quarterback back then. They went like 6-10, I think, the first season that I actually remember watching. But then they picked it up and won 2 Super Bowls, and now I'm on the team, which is pretty cool to say.
Right. Yeah. So who was your favorite player growing up?
So I'm not a safety, but Troy Polamalu was my favorite player. I wore 43 in like Pee Wee football because of him, and then again once I got the opportunity to in college, I got to wear 43. So just the way he played, his attitude, his tenacity, his will to never give up on a play. You see so many plays on him making, coming across the field, making tackles, diving for interceptions. I think the fingertip interception always comes to mind. I don't know if you guys remember that play, but
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
he scoops it up, half an inch before it hits the ground. So just looking up to him as far as just how he plays the game and how he handled his business on and off the field. He was my favorite player.
So were your family members also like Steeler fans, or who were they fans of while you were growing up?
My dad growing up was a 49ers fan.
Okay.
My mom kind of was a Cowboys fan, I think. But my cousin and my aunt, my mom's sister and my cousin, they were big Steelers fans. So we got to chat back and forth here and there. And then my grandma over time became a Steelers fan because she had 2 grandkids, and I was into football and things like that. So it's a small following, and obviously all my family members are going to be Steelers fans again. So yeah, a few of my family members.
Okay, gotcha. So what was it like for you as a Steeler fan to then get drafted by the Ravens? Like, was that even something that entered your mind, or you didn't care who you got drafted by? It was just, let's go play.
Yeah, I mean, I think towards maybe the last 2 years of my college career, when I thought I had a chance of getting drafted and playing in the NFL, I kind of had to put the fandom aside. And I mean, the Ravens were paying my checks and writing the checks. Yeah. So that kind of went away. But when I got traded back to the Steelers, I was like, this is kind of like a dream come true, a childhood dream. But yeah, once I got drafted to the Ravens, I was all into Baltimore and what that city had to offer.
So when you're on the Ravens, was it kind of surreal playing against Big Ben and because he's the quarterback you grew up watching?
Yeah, so Big Ben definitely was someone that I looked up to and watched. He's from kind of the same area in Ohio that I am, so a lot of people knew him and kind of were drawn to him because of that local hometown connection to the Steelers. So yeah, the first time I lined up with him at quarterback and me on the line, it was a surreal moment. And like I said, again, it was kind of like a childhood dream come true to play against somebody that I looked up to for 10 plus years before ever being in the NFL.
Right. Okay. So going back to the draft, what was your whole, draft experience like, going from, all the pre-draft stuff to the day that you were drafted?
Yeah. So kind of right from the bowl game, I had, I think, 2 days to pack my stuff up back in Ann Arbor, Michigan, and head out to Southern California for training after our bowl game in Miami. And I was out there for 3 months training and got to do the whole combine and Senior Bowl and pro day thing. And then kind of those few weeks leading up to the draft, it was pretty calm. I had a couple workouts with a few teams, and I was supposed to take a visit to Baltimore, and they canceled on me like the last minute. So I was like, okay, shit, I'm not going to that team. And whatever, 2-3 weeks later, they draft me. But I guess the draft weekend was pretty hectic. I didn't think I was going to be drafted in the first round, but I still had a few people over, my agent and my now wife. We watched the first round together and kind of relaxed, whatever. Didn't expect too much. And then the second day was where I really thought I had a chance. And the second round came and went, and I was getting a little pissed that I didn't get drafted. And the 74th pick came around, and Ozzie Newsome was on the other end, and I got a Baltimore, Maryland area code number popped up on my phone, and the rest is history for those first 3 years of being in Baltimore.
Right. Okay. So, I mean, you've seen firsthand the Ravens-Steelers rivalry, which, in my opinion, I mean, I know we get the bias, has become the best rivalry in football. I know you have the history with the Packers and Bears, but that's because those two franchises have played so many more games against each other. Right. I think if you're looking at the time that the Ravens have been a franchise in Baltimore, and since the Steelers and them have played each other, that's been the best rivalry in football. So what's it like being a part of that?
It's crazy. I grew up watching that rivalry. There's the defense, the Baltimore's defense has always been known for being, dominant with Ray and Ed Reed and Terrell Suggs, for so many years, going up against that, Pittsburgh offense. And obviously Pittsburgh's defense has been just as good. You guys got like, like I said, Palomalu and James Harrison, Brett Kiesel, Casey Hampton, those type of guys come to mind, Larry Foote, Joey Porter. So when you knew that we were playing, or that those two teams were playing, it was usually a Monday night game, a Sunday night game, and the whole country was watching because you knew it meant so much, and you knew the game was going to come down to the, usually a 2-minute drive to win the game. So being able to be a part of those games, I've been a part of 6 so far. most of them have been pretty close. You know, we played a couple Sunday night games, and I think this year we have our Thanksgiving game is against the Ravens. So you know it's going to be a good game. You know it's going to be a primetime game, and you know both sides of the you know both teams are going to give it their all.
Did the team try to emphasize that this game is just like any other game, or did they treat it like it's a different game because it's the Steelers?
No, they definitely emphasize that it's a different game. It's a division game. It usually comes down to us two to win the division. These two games that we play each year against them is going to mean a lot when it comes to the division and playoff and wild card positioning. So everyone knows the importance of the game, and I think we all take it a little more serious than if we were playing, you know, an NFC team that, you know, it matters if we win, but at the end of the day, the AFC North, you want to win that division, and it goes through Pittsburgh or it goes through Baltimore usually.
Yeah. So who was the first person from the team that reached out to you, and what was that conversation like?
It was Cam. Cam Hayward texted me, and he said, "Hey man, you know, welcome to the team. I've always respected your game, even though you went to Michigan, and you know he's an Ohio State guy."
Yeah.
Which meant a lot to me because I looked up to him, and I watched him play even back in college when he was at Ohio State. I admired his game and what he's done, and you know he's been at an all-pro level for many years, and just to be able to play with him for even if it's just a season would be pretty special.
Right. Okay. And I assume was it Tomlin that gave you a call first though from the coaching staff, or like once you were told that you were being traded, like who was it from the front office that reached out?
Yeah, Tomlin and Colbert were on the same call together,
Okay.
and they switched back and forth talking to me, and then Coach Dunbar gave me a call, and Coach Butler gave me a call. So got to, you know, virtually, or I guess over the phone, meet those guys. I met Tomlin a couple times, and Coach Colbert or GM Colbert back during my pro day. We went to dinner together with a bunch of other Michigan guys. So I have a little familiarity with them, but I'm excited to get into the building and kind of build that relationship a little more and contribute to the team.
Right. And Cam's a guy you're going to be playing with along that defensive line. What role do you envision for yourself along that defensive line?
You know, it's interesting. You know, in our meetings, coaches always is talking about stopping the run. I think they were like 14th or 15th in the league in stopping the run, and I think they want to improve on that this year as a defense. So I feel like I can come in and make an impact on that immediately in the run game, and you know, continue to progress in my pass rush and continue to you know, get sacks in the league. And I know that Cam and Stephon are, you know, two very dominant inside pass rushers. So wherever I can fit in when it comes to pass rush, but I definitely think that my main role will be to stop the run and contribute to, you know, getting those run defensing rankings up a little more.
I mean, you look at the returning players from that defense, and most of them are coming back from last year. One guy that isn't is Javon Hargrave. Has there been any talk of you potentially trying to fill that role a little bit, take some snaps there?
You know, not too much. You know, a lot of people have seen online that I'm listed as a nose tackle, and I'd have to gain probably about another 30 pounds to fill that role. But Hargraves wasn't the biggest of nose tackles, and he just got, you know, I think $40 million. So he played that role phenomenally last year. I think he had 6.5 sacks, and he dominated at that position. And I think if they ask me to do that, that's something that I can to do. And we don't play a lot of base where that actual nose tackle is going to be needed a lot. But I know, you know, when we play Pittsburgh or when we play Baltimore, you know, those guys fill the box with a 300-pound fullback and, you know, 280-pound tight end, and they got some big old linemen. So we're going to have to play a little more base when we play those guys. But we'll see what they have in store for me. Wherever I can fit in, I'll get in, and I'm just looking forward to getting on the field.
All right. Okay. And also I have a question. What do you think are the similarities now? I mean, obviously it's very early in your time here, but what type of similarities do you see, at least so far, between Harbaugh and Coach Tomlin?
Oh man. They want to win. I know that. I know that for sure that they'll win at any cost. I know they put a lot of emphasis on the defense, which is what I like to hear and what I like to see, especially being a defensive player. But I mean, they're two different guys. You know, I'm sure they have different philosophies when it comes to football, but I know that they both want to win, and I know they'll try and win at all costs. And they're two, coaches that have won Super Bowls, and they're two coaches that are going to continue to push the envelope when it comes to ways to continue to win and find ways to win Super Bowls.
All right, okay. So as an opponent of the Steelers in past years, what did you see from their defense, at least specifically last year, because their defense took, a leap to like an elite level? What did you see being on, an opposite team that you think is going to like allow that to carry on and continue?
They get sacks. I think they led the league in sacks the last 2 or 3 years. They get after the quarterback, and that's not just the D line. That's the back end, and they acquired Minka. I think a quarter of the way into the season last year, and he's been phenomenal for them, and he's filled that void for the back end, and he's been able to allow us to get to the quarterback, or allow them to get to the quarterback. Obviously, TJ and Bud on the outside are elite pass rushers. But I think with the guys that they had, and they kept pretty much everyone except for Hargraves, I think maybe a couple other guys, but the bulk of their defense and the main guys on the defense are still there. So I think that we can take another jump and continue to strive for that number one defensive spot.
Right. Well, you mentioned the in-season trade of Minka. So, I understand that it's a different type of off-season, but now he has the off-season with the coaching staff and team as well, which he didn't have last year. He stepped in and immediately played the way that he did, which was insane.
Yeah, I think an off-season under his belt now with the team, he'll be able to understand the playbook a little more, have a little more freedom to move around and do what he does well, and be able to understand the defense and where everyone fits. And I think that's only going to make him a more dominant player.
Right. Not to say that you weren't productive in Baltimore, but do you feel like there's another level for you to get to individually?
Yeah, I think so. I was actually thinking about this, just how my mind works, I guess, or just thinking, just sitting around. But when I was in Baltimore, the other two defensive linemen were Brandon Williams and Mike Pierce, and those guys are totally different from how I play the game of football. Body type's totally different. And with guys like Cam and Stephon, they're kind of similar body types to me. So I'm excited to be able to pick their brains and how they stop the run, how they rush the passer, and continue to be with and move about how they go about the game, because I know that our body types are kind of similar, and how we play the game is a lot different than the guys that I had in Baltimore. Not to say that those guys weren't good. I mean, Brandon was a Pro Bowler, and I think Mike was an alternate last year. But just to be able to be with those guys on a daily basis and pick their brains this year, that's what I think I'm most excited about.
Yeah, I have our live chat pulled up here, and one of our friends came in here and said, "Ask him how to stop Lamar, since that was his teammate." Yeah, like it's just that simple.
Yeah, we were never allowed to get that close to Lamar, so that's going to be a new challenge for me as well. But yeah, it should be a fun challenge to be able to stop him, because not many people were able to last year.
Yeah, I mean, the whole division, I think, is going to be fun. I mean, you've already spent time in it, obviously, so it's not like you're coming to a brand new division.
Right.
Look at the Ravens roster. Obviously, the year that they had last year, they got, in my opinion, better. They had a fantastic draft. Cleveland's as talented as anybody, at least on paper. Cincinnati, they added Joe Burrow, obviously the first overall pick. They shouldn't be as bad as they were last year. And we got Ben coming back in the fantastic defense that we do. So it's going to be a very fun division.
Yeah, I think it's definitely going to be probably the most competitive division in the league. I mean, obviously the NFC West is pretty competitive as well. But yeah, it should be a fun year, a fun 6 games against those other teams. And yeah, for the best team is definitely going to win the division, and it's going to be a battle every week.
So what are your goals individually for this incoming season?
You mean like statistic wise?
Oh, I guess so, but it's also a contract year for you. So I mean,
Yeah.
just overall, what are you looking to improve this year?
That I can be I wouldn't say franchise player, but someone that they're comfortable with giving, a long-term deal, a 3 or 4 year deal. That's been my goal since I got drafted, was to continue to, to get that second contract and, prove to a team that I can be of service for, not just a year here, a year here, a year here, and be a journeyman, like, probably 75% of the league is. But to be someone that is in a place for a long time and can contribute to the team for years to come. I think that's definitely my goal, is to prove not only to the Steelers, but to 31 other teams that I can play for you guys at a high level for a long time.
Cool. All right. Yeah, how much communication has there been, whether it be like through Zoom rooms or whatever it might be, with the entire team?
Yeah, we have a team meeting every Monday, and Coach Tomlin kind of gives us a rundown of what he's feeling and what the league's saying about getting back into the swing of things, and then we break up into to defensive and in position meetings. So I'm with the D line, Monday through Thursday, which has been cool to see and to be able to hear their voices and see how Coach Dunbar wants the D line to be played, and go over the playbook and just kind of get a feel for what it's going to be like during camp and during the season.
Gotcha. As far as like workouts and stuff like that, how are those? Is it just like individual and they're just taking your word for it, or like are they actually taking place like on this while you're working out?
Yeah, I know some teams are doing it like that, where they're the strength coach is kind of putting guys through a Zoom workout. But for the Steelers, we're doing everything on our own, which has been kind of difficult to be able to find a gym that's actually letting people work out. I know some guys are doing a lot of in-home stuff. They have their own gym set up, or they got a bunch of band weights, or people are going underground and doing some workouts at gyms that are supposed to be closed. But we got to get it how we can get it, because the season's not going to stop for somebody who, just because they're not working out, the season's probably going to continue to happen. And that's what we want. And that's what the fans want. And that's what the coaches want. And so, yeah, we got to continue to find a way to stay conditioned and stay strong when the circumstances aren't as great as they were in previous off seasons.
Right.
It seems like that's the difference with the NFL when I guess they have the it's good that they're in their off season right now, but every other sport they're not able to play or do things. But at least with the NFL, it looks like they're going to start on time, and they're going to have on camp normally, and everything's going to be normal, at least on the surface, compared to the other leagues.
Yeah, there's definitely going to be a little more restriction on, obviously, fans. Who knows how many fans, if there are going to be fans at games. I think the preseason is going to be shortened a little bit just because we haven't been able to be with the team these last 2 months. So yeah, we'll see how it goes. I know there'll be more restrictions as far as like taking our temperature every time we walk into the building, getting tested every so often as a team. So obviously that's what we want. We want to be able to play in the season. We want to be able to have a season. So we're going to have to take those, precautionary measures to be able to play, the game that we love to play.
What kind of difference do you think it would make if there was no fans? Because I know you've heard people say that they feed off of the fans' energy in the stadium. So, like, what kind of difference would that make as a player?
Yeah, I mean, obviously we love to have the fans at the games. We love to have that energy, and we love to have that atmosphere of a team or a stadium either cheering for you or cheering against you, which we can both use. I'm sure both sides of the ball and both teams can use that fuel either for or against you to get some type of motivation and to find some type of, I guess, encouragement to continue to play. But yeah, if there are no fans, it'll definitely be weird. I'm sure there'll be a way to like pump in noise or pump in music, but just to playing from an empty stadium, I haven't done that since like, Pee Wee football. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. But I'm, cautiously optimistic that there'll be fans at some capacity, which will be nice to play in front of.
Yeah, Smitty's hoping so too, because he's a season ticket holder.
Got to get a refund if not.
Yeah.
And Tyler's actually, you mentioned the Ravens on Thanksgiving. That's the game that we're supposed to go to together. So
yeah, it should be a good one. I told some of the Ravens guys they can come over for turkey and pie before the game. So maybe we'll have some guys over, but we'll see.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, Tyler, do you have anything else? Because
yeah, I had one more question, and I just thought of this a little bit ago. But so this is kind of, I guess, going back to your Michigan days, and probably even before that. But growing up, was there any defensive lineman that you tried to embody or looked up to, and that was in the league that you tried to model your play style after?
I guess maybe not in college. I mean, obviously, like J.J. Watt. He was. I think when I was in college, he was like the 3-time defensive player of the year. So like watching a D end have 20 plus sacks, and he was also a big D end that could play inside. I kind of, watched him and kind of wanted to pick, his game a little bit and watch film on him. but like I was a Steelers fan, so I watched guys like Brett Kiesel and Aaron Smith and James Harrison. Obviously, he's more of an outside linebacker, and big Casey Hampton. But yeah, watched Cam obviously as well. In my early days in college. But I would just watch football in general and kind of see who was at the top of their game and try and do a few things that they would do and try and model a little bit. But I'm my own person. I got to play how I feel comfortable playing, and that's what's led me to where I am today. So I must be doing something right. So got to continue to have confidence in myself and continue to play how I feel that I can contribute to the team most.
Right. Gotcha. Okay. Well, Tyler, you don't have anything else then?
Nope, I'm good.
All right, Chris, we're going to let you go. We got a couple more things to talk about football wise and the rest of our show, obviously, but we'll let you get going. We appreciate the time. We wish you nothing but the best of luck this season.
Yeah. Thanks for having us on, guys. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate you guys.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Take care.
Yep. Bye-bye.
You too.
All right. That was new Steelers defensive lineman, Chris Wormley. Chris, thanks for coming on. As I mentioned, we do have a couple more things to talk about in the NFL. I thought about maybe bringing them up with him, but I know at the same time, I told him probably about a half hour, so we were kind of getting close to that. I think we would have ran pretty well past that had I brought up a couple of these topics. I do want to mention first thing, as I said, every episode we're going to throw out a Black-owned business for everybody to support because we want to do what we can to help support them. So I told you guys about the place on Thursday. We're talking about a completely new place today. That's Showcase Barbecue. Now, this is a place I can get behind because this looks exactly to me like that Dreamland barbecue that we went to in Mobile, Alabama. Yeah.
Okay.
That's their thing. They're located at 600 Frankstown Avenue in Pittsburgh, PA. You can call in orders. At that number would be 412-361-7649. Write that down. You can even order online at showcasebarbecue.net. I was going through the pictures. This place looks phenomenal. I'm talking chicken wings. I'm talking brisket. I'm talking pulled pork, ribs, pretty much everything you want, and they cater for $15 a person. And from what I understand, it's kind of like the same deal as like in the South. If you go in there and you don't get sweet tea, you might get the boot out of there. So anyways, it looks awesome. And now I'm hungry.
I'm Googling it right now to look at pictures because I'm very curious.
Yeah. But so once again, that's Showcase Barbecue. It's located at 600 Frankstown Avenue in Pittsburgh, PA. Okay. So a couple more things to talk about in the NFL. I did want to ask him because his former coach, I should say, Harbaugh came out and said going with these COVID protocols is pretty much impossible for these franchises to do. So I was kind of curious as to like what his opinion would be on that. Because I agree. Like I get the sense that a lot of people feel that way, but just aren't saying it. I mean, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense because you have the Steelers using Heinz Field now for training camp, and they're going to use both the locker rooms so you can keep like social distancing from that point. What does that matter though if you're to get on the field and have it the exact same way? Like guys are still be making contact with each other.
Yeah, like, it's not a sport that you can't keep 6 feet away from each other. Like you're literally just going head on with people every single play. So yeah, I agree. You kind of can't avoid it at all.
Yeah, it's you can't avoid it, and it's just like the other protocols are taken. Like he mentioned some of them, like checking temperature and stuff like that. That makes sense, but like wearing a mask, okay? They want them to wear a mask when they're not doing like the football activities. So you wear a mask into the facility and out of the facility. And I guess when you're in the locker room getting ready, but once again, what does that matter once you're on the football field?
Yeah. I mean, I thought the same thing whenever I saw so BYU football put out a video of their players walking into their facility and they were all wearing masks on, but it's like, as soon as they get on the field, none of them have masks. So why even have it if you're just going to be with each other? It doesn't really make sense.
Yeah, and Stubbs mentioned too, like if they're tested there, right, and they test negative, what does them? Then they can make contact with each other, right? Because they tested negative for it.
Mm-hmm.
So why would those guys then still be wearing masks? Because what are you protecting other people from if you tested negative?
Yeah, exactly. Some of this just doesn't make sense to me.
It's just, you know what? What's weird, everybody's not on the same page with this thing. There's new things every single day. People are doing one thing, other people are doing another thing. For example, this is completely off topic. I went to breakfast yesterday with my mom, and the place that we go into, nobody's wearing a mask. Like, even when you walk in, like, I know a lot of people are doing, you have to wear a mask until you get to your table. You can take it off. Then when you're getting up, you got to put it back on to exit, right? There was not a person wearing a mask in this place when they came in or out or anything. And the lady even at the register said, you know, with how much is being thrown out there and how much, like, there's different news every single day. Doctors are saying one thing, other doctors are saying another, scientists are saying another. All these people are saying different things. Who knows what the case actually is? We're just not having people wear them.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people that say that you need to. There's a lot of people that say it doesn't matter.
I'm not reading that, Sarge.
But it depends on what he say.
I can't. I literally can't read it on here.
Okay. But I mean, yesterday I went to Little Caesars to pick up pizza for my family, and I had to wear a mask in there. But some places I don't have to wear a mask. Like everybody has different circumstance, but like the NFL of all things, like you're constantly touching people, and I mean that's just how the sport is. So whatever guidelines they're going to take into precaution, like they're just going to be thrown out the window as soon as they get on the playing field. So it doesn't really make sense for them to have them.
Right. Yeah. And, you know, the other thing that he mentioned, kind of switching course here, was because of everything that's going on, a shortened preseason. Excuse me. Which I feel like for the players and for, you know, well, the coaches probably want to get a better look at some guys. So at least for the players that are at least safe, they love this. I think that they're fine with a shortened preseason. I think for the fans, they'll be, you know, fine with it too. I think that it's probably hurting like those bubble guys on the roster. But I'm curious to see if this is, you know, what we end up. It's a shame that this forced this to happen, but you almost wonder if, okay, say they go to 2 preseason games, the NFL really likes the way that it went. You know, the fans like the way that it went. Everybody likes the way that it went. If we could just see this going forward.
Yeah, I mean, I've been advocating for years to shorten the preseason. I think that 4 is just too many. Like, if you want to have 3, then that's one thing. But like 4, I just think it's unnecessary, because if you can't figure out your team by 4 games, then you're not going to figure it out. But I mean, obviously they do figure it out. But
they were talking about, what about 3 in like a joint practice, like, or not joint practice, like a scrimmage type thing.
Like how teams,
they do joint practices, but yeah, I mean, kind of like a joint practice, but a little bit more like a game. I don't know.
So like a scrimmage. Yeah. Yeah. I know what you mean. Like, just add a little more juice to it. But I mean, maybe. I just don't see the point of there being 4 games. So I'm okay with them shortening it. I mean, your starters only play in like one half of one of the game. Yeah. And I get you want to see what you got in a lot of these players, but I feel like you can see what you got in the players that you're looking at in a shorter amount of games of 4. So, I mean, because realistically, you have all these guys on the roster, but you're probably only looking, like, I mean, you want to do your due justice for everybody, but you're probably only looking at a certain few that you actually think are going to make the team. I mean, let's be honest, like that's probably just how it is.
Right. And I agree about, you know, being able to figure out, you know, the bubble situation in less games than 4. But I think it's the fact that it was 4 and now, so you've been doing it a certain way, and now you have to like scale that differently and adjust that accordingly. So, you know, you look at, if it were only 2 games, which they're doing now, who even knows if we would have seen, you know, Duck Hodges at all in the preseason last year? And then who knows if he's able to stick on the roster because of that? Like, had we not seen him show some flashes in the preseason, who knows what would have happened with him?
Yeah, we might have not traded
for a lot of guys.
We could have not traded what's his name? Who did we trade? What was the quarterback's name? Why am I blanking?
Josh Dobbs.
Yeah, Josh Dobbs went to Jacksonville. Yeah, we could have not traded him, and we'd have him as our 3rd string for last year, and the season
which actually I might have been fine with.
Yeah, honestly, I after seeing Mason, you could have been okay with him as your backup depending on how he played, but we don't know.
Stubbs said, why not do all joint practices / scrimmages in one exhibition?
Because I think practices are not taken as seriously as like a preseason game. Even if you try to amp them up like a scrimmage, like an actual game, like at least in the preseason game, you get the atmosphere and the players are probably going to go all out more than they would in a scrimmage or practice.
Yeah, I think that too. So on, I feel like I keep talking about them. On Pat McAfee's show, they were talking about joint practices, right? And Pat was talking about how he was only part of one, but like they definitely were taking it seriously. Like they were worried about starters getting hurt.
Okay.
So I don't know. Yeah, the hardest thing would be finding enough playing time for guys that you feel like are on the bubble of your roster. And, in our case where we want to potentially see a little bit more of Ben in the preseason to shake off that rust, if we're only playing 2 preseason games, I don't see that being the case. I think he would play half of one of them, which is, what he would have been doing anyway.
Yeah, if they were playing the full 4, you think he would have played more than just that one half?
I think he would have played probably a series in each of the first 2, and then the half in the third one.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Because you don't want him to go in cold. So.
And a series unless it went like 3 and out.
Okay.
Because then, I think that they'd probably want to see another series if that happened.
Yeah, and a 3 and out, he might not even pass the ball too.
Yeah.
But so with joint practices, who would we have a joint practice with? Because like, would it be in Pittsburgh or would the team have to travel somewhere?
Well, they're not doing it this year. They've said that there's going to be no joint practices.
No, not this year, just in general.
Oh, yeah.
Like, because I don't really know how they work. Like, do you meet at a neutral place?
No, they take place at like one of the teams.
Okay.
I don't know how it's decided. I don't know if it's like, let's do a 2-year agreement, 1 year at your place, 1 year at our place. That makes sense. I might have come up with something, but I don't know if that's what happens. Yeah, I don't know how that's decided, to be honest.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm not.
Maybe Devin. They're saying every commissioner's name in here for Stubbs. They just keep putting in quotes like Devin Roger Goodell Stubbs, Devin Gary Devin Stubbs.
Yeah, well, I mean, for at least for this year, it makes sense to have a shortened preseason. Especially, and you got to think they're adding 7. They have 17 games now, so you're going to want to shorten it from 4 either way, I would think.
Yeah. And expanded playoffs.
Yeah, I would. I think it just makes sense. Even if they go from 4 to 3 normally after this year, because this year is different than any other year. But like, say next year they just go to 3. I think that makes more sense than having the 4. I think you can do just as much do justice as a coach on the players in 3 games as you could.
Right. Okay. And the last 2 things kind of tie in together with the racial injustice that's been going on. Bill O'Brien, the Texans head coach / GM / team ruiner, has said that he's going to kneel with the players when the season comes back, which I think is a good thing.
Wait, hold on, pause. Did you say team ruiner?
Yeah.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure. Just wanted to clarify.
Yeah. Sarge mentioned actually the Texans came up just here. He said, remember when Texans and Redskins had a joint practice in Hopkins, and then he put bodied in all caps Hall. I do remember that.
That is fact. It's a very funny video.
Yeah. But anyway, Bill O'Brien definitely, this is a like statement here for him. Mm-hmm. And I think it's a good thing, letting them know that he's with his guys and, he supports all of them. And I think that you'll see a lot of coaches doing this, honestly. And, it's gonna force a certain group away from the game, but I think that they're completely fine with that.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like the group that will be offended and want to leave the game is such a small minority of the actual fans of the league that the real fans will stay. And yeah, I think it's great that he's doing that, because there's no better feeling than like knowing that your coach has your back as a player. So especially in this circumstance, because it's off the field stuff, it's not on the field. So yeah, this is awesome, and I think you're going to see a lot of coaches doing this, because you just want to show that you have your players back, and even if you don't necessarily agree with all of it, like you at least respect them enough to do it as a coach.
Yeah, and I think it's funny because the people that's going to push away are the same people who are saying that they want to quit watching because it's, they don't want sports to be political, or they don't want them disrespecting the flag or whatever. You are making it that yourself. That's not what they're doing. Like they are not making it whatever you think that they're doing. Like you yourself are making it political. You yourself are making it about certain things when they have time and time again stated it's just about the injustice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, we don't, anybody that has that view and can't just watch the sport for watching the sport, that's not who that they're catering to.
Yeah. I mean, I always thought it was so funny that they get offended by maybe a minute and a half of a 3.5 hour game.
And you know what? It's not like the NFL was doing this all along. They are paid to do the national anthem by the armed forces for doing the national anthem.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
It's not like by choice the NFL has been doing this. And when they first started doing it, the players were in the locker rooms to begin with. They weren't even on the fields.
Yeah, I was in the locker room in high school. I mean, I know that's completely
that's
different.
how it works at that level, but for some reason, because the military paid the NFL or whatever, that was a thing. And maybe that's where it comes from, that it's disrespecting the military. I don't know. But that's obviously not the case. I mean, I don't know how many times guys need to say it. And once again, I mean, Kaepernick made it very clear with everything that he did. The socks depicting the cops as pigs. Like, I'm pretty sure that was telling who he was targeting with, the kneeling. And for him to not sit, which was what he was originally going to do, and be willing to listen and say, okay, yeah, I'll do this instead. If you think that I would be offending people that I'm clearly not meaning to offend, I will do something differently. So he was willing to adjust what he was doing, and yet people still took it a different way.
Yeah, I mean, I think the people that are like that are just, they're very narrow-minded. They're not going to change their mind. It's like the more you argue, the more firm they get in their mindset. And like even if you didn't think, like if you thought it was disrespectful, like I feel like you should just think about and listen to what they've said about it, because I can understand why people would be disrespectful, like think it could be disrespectful at first, but then you realize and like look into like what they're actually doing, then I feel like if you, I don't know how to say it. Like
I get what you're saying, because when it first happened, we were so used to just no one having an issue with it. Everybody would stand for the national anthem. It was just what we did.
Yeah.
So you guys go against that, and your first instinct is, why are they doing this? Why, you might see it as disrespectful, but the difference is there are people that were willing to listen and learn why, and adapt and understand why they're doing this, and maybe change their views. And then you have the other people that are just so stuck in their way, and you can't talk to them. They have their way of thinking, and you're not changing it regardless of what you say. And those are the people that still make it about the military and the flag. And
I think the best part is when people try to make about the military now, and people in the military say we're not bothered by them doing that. Like we are fighting to give them the right to be able to do that.
Yeah. Or even like if it's not what they would do. Yeah. They're fighting for them to have, even if it were, a thing against the military, which they've clearly said that's not, I don't understand how it's still a thing. But even if it was, that's their freedom, whether we agree with it or not. That's what those people that are in the military are fighting for. So they would still have the exact same answer, that's what we're fighting for, is for their freedom to do so.
Yeah. Like I know someone that stopped watching the NFL because of that. And this person was in the Air Force through their entire career. And like, I mean, I get it at first if you're a little offended, but like after it's been like 4 years or almost 4 years, like I think it's just kind of childish at this point. I'll be honest.
My dad was in the Army, and he never even like had an issue with, like, he never even like had a second thought about them doing it.
Who's in the Army and drafted by the Pirates?
Yes.
People are going to be very confused by that.
Yeah. I don't know if I don't typically do this, but I'm going to walk away for 1 second.
It's well worth it. Smitty's dad is famous. He was a first-round draft pick.
Oh, man, this thing is dusty.
Look at that. Don Smith was drafted by the Pirates.
Okay, and the last thing, getting back to the racial injustice thing, as I said, the last two topics were the NFL has committed to $250 million over 10 years to racial injustice causes. So that's what, $25 million. Well, I'm bad at math because that was so easy. $25 million a season. I was like, do I have to think about this? I shouldn't have to.
You're like, so that's $25 million a season? Like, you had to like ask it as like a question.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's awesome. I assume is that just going to different like charities and stuff like that?
So I'm guessing, that they'll just seek out foundations that deal with that.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't seen like any specific ones though. So
yeah. I mean, I'll be honest, I can't really name specific ones, but I'm sure they will do better research than I could.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you obviously have like the NAACP, stuff like that, but yeah.
I mean, 25 million over 10 years. I mean, 25 million a year for 10 years. That's a lot of cash.
Yeah, and I get that it's hard for the NFL to win right now with what's going on because of what happened with Kaepernick and how they handled that situation.
Yeah.
But not to like have the cliche, everybody gets a second chance and blah, blah, blah. But I feel like they're making the right steps now. And they are saying, we don't care how some people are going to view this. We know that this is the right thing to do. So, give us that backlash. You guys can hate us if you want. This is the right thing to do. They said that we were wrong for not listening before. Now they're doing this. I think that they're making right steps to mend the issues that they had, just a couple years ago.
Yeah, I'll be honest. Whenever the 49ers tweeted something and everybody was just like dogging on them, I thought it was so funny.
Okay, but here's the thing with the 49er situation, and I'm not trying to necessarily defend them, but he chose to not pick up his own option. So, yeah. I mean, it's not like the 49ers cut him or anything.
Yeah, I mean, I had no issue with that with them. I just thought it was hilarious how people were just attacking them. But yeah, I mean.
Now you had like the situation with the Ravens where they were reportedly interested in him and there were fans protesting it outside of their stadium. The idea of signing him.
Yeah, that reminds me, except probably on a bigger scale for them, of whenever we signed Michael Vick and you had people protesting that.
Yeah.
But that's a little different. But yeah, I mean, you're right. It's a good thing that the league, better now than never, is trying to take steps in the right direction towards this and showing that they actually care about what their players are saying, like admitting like they didn't listen before and trying to make amends for it.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm just happy that with their response now. That's all I'll say. I fully admit that they didn't handle things the right way at the time, but I think that they're going about it the right way now.
Yeah, and it really makes sense because if they didn't, it would be stupid because 70 to 75% of their players are African American. So you want to show support for those guys.
Yeah. Now it's about getting more guys, on the coaching staffs and as general managers and front offices and stuff like that. That's where.
Yeah. And speaking of that, that whole thing where they said if you hired someone who was black as a coach, you'd get an incentive pick or something like. Isn't that what it was?
Yeah.
I don't think that's the best look.
As high as a third round pick.
Yeah, that's not a good look. Like you have to incentivize it.
Wouldn't you almost, as a black coach or even like people as fans like take that more offensive than anything?
I would think
Like
so.
there has to be incentive to hire us.
Yeah, exactly. Like, and I'm a person that I'm all for. I don't care what color you are, like what race you are. If you're a good coach, you're a good coach. I mean, but and I understand they want to get more diversity when it comes to coaching, but that's not the way to do it. I mean, that I think that just kind of was a wrong mindset on it, because I agree. I think if you're black, you're probably more offended by that. Like why do they have to get, why are they getting a pick for hiring me? They should just hire me to hire me.
Yeah.
But yeah, a lot of intense stuff going on when it comes to this stuff.
All right. Well, we said it was going to be a shorter show both these 2 days, and it has been. We don't even have an hour. I don't know the last time that we had an episode that wasn't even an hour.
Probably 2017.
Yeah. But before we go, I got to tell you guys about our sponsor, Keeks Barbershop, who is back open. As of yesterday, the barbershop is back open, so you can make appointments with him. Go like him on Facebook, follow him on Instagram. I'm not even gonna say his Twitter. He doesn't do anything on there anyway. He's boring. But you can make an appointment with him. You can download an app actually called The Cut and make an appointment with him. Just search Christian Circle. So Keats Barbershop is located at 180 Brighton Avenue in Rochester, PA. He is open 11 to 7 Tuesday through Friday and Saturday 9 to 4. On Tuesday, he does $5 off for military personnel, first responders, and nurses. Again, Keats Barbershop at 180 Brighton Avenue in Rochester, PA. I do also want to let everybody know that if you are watching this on YouTube and aren't subscribed, you should definitely hit that subscribe button. Every week we put out at least 3 new videos of clips from the show. And we also obviously record the show live on here. If you're listening back, please head over to YouTube, our YouTube around the 412, and hit that subscribe button. You can hit the notification bell as well. That will let you know when we do have a new upload or when we are going live. And as of right now, we're definitely gonna do a show next week. We have a couple things in the works, but we don't have a guest announced. As we put on our Twitter, though, the following Thursday night, we're gonna have former Penguins defenseman Darius Kasparaitis on the show. Our sponsor that I just mentioned, Keats Barbershop, is absolutely ecstatic about that. Grew up watching that type of hockey. Darius invented the hip check, being a shorter defenseman. Taking guys out like that was very fun to watch. But we're super excited for that. As I said, as far as next week, we'll see if we can come up with something. Otherwise, it will just be the 2 of us for the first time since I don't know when.
Yeah, and if you're listening to this back on whatever platform it is, or if you're listening live, tell Smitty happy birthday. It's his birthday today, so happy birthday, Smitty.
Yeah, thank you.
We'll be celebrating later.
We will be celebrating later. But other than that, it's been Around the 412 as part of the Pod Hub Network. And thank you guys. We'll talk to you next week. Bye-bye.